Someone asks what you do for a living. You answer, but you make it smaller than it is. You say, I just work in tech, or it's nothing special, really. And then you pivot the conversation back to them before they can ask anything else. You got promoted last month. You haven't told most people. Not because you're private exactly, because something in you goes quiet when the spotlight swings your way. Something in you would rather slip out the side door than stand in the center of the room. This looks like modesty. It even feels like humility, but it's actually something much older than that. Something your nervous system learned a long time ago, in a time when you were young and largely on your own, and staying quiet was just how you survived. You are not broken. You are not undermining yourself out of some flaw in your character. You are doing something your mind learned to do when it had to protect you, and it learned it so well that it still runs the program today, even when the original danger is long gone. This is not a weakness. It is a survival pattern, and understanding it might be the most honest thing you can do for yourself right now.
If you grew up in the Generation X window, chances are you know what it means to come home to an empty house, to figure out the afternoon yourself, to not bother the adults with your problems because the adults were tired or working or simply not there in the way children needed them to be. You were called the latchkey generation for a reason. Independence wasn't something you chose, it was something the situation required. And within that quiet independence, you learned something important. Don't need too much. Don't draw too much attention. Don't make yourself a burden by having expectations or by exceeding them in ways that invite new ones. When you did well and someone noticed, it often meant more was now expected of you. More pressure, more visibility, more risk of disappointment, yours or theirs. The safest thing was to perform, but not too visibly, to achieve, but not announce it, to be capable without becoming a target. Your nervous system learned that flying under the radar was a form of safety, and nervous systems are excellent students.
There is a concept in psychology called neuroception, the body's unconscious scanning process, always running beneath your awareness, always asking, is this safe? The remarkable thing about neuroception is that it doesn't check in with your rational mind. It doesn't wait for you to decide whether a situation is threatening. It just responds to patterns it has learned to associate with danger. Praise, recognition, being seen. For many people who grew up in emotional environments where those things came with strings attached, with expectations, with vulnerability, with the discomfort of suddenly being watched, those experiences got filed under caution. Not danger exactly, but not quite safe either. So today, when someone says you should be proud of yourself, your body already has its answer ready before your brain catches up. It deflects, it minimizes, it redirects. Not because you don't believe in yourself, but because some part of you is still looking out for the version of you that learned attention costs something. But here's the part nobody tells you. The behavior didn't just protect you back then, it also gave you something, a sense of control, a kind of armor. When you minimized your achievements before anyone else could, you were taking back the power in the interaction. You were deciding, on your own terms, how much of yourself to offer. That is not weakness. That is a child's very intelligent solution to an unpredictable emotional environment. The problem isn't that you learned it. The problem is that the lesson stuck, hard, in a nervous system that tends to hang on to what once worked long after the context has changed. There's also something deeper going on around identity. Many people from this generation built their self-concept around the idea of not needing things, of being fine, of handling it quietly without fanfare. That self-concept becomes precious over time. It's yours. You built it. It got you through. And when someone praises you effusively or asks you to sit in your success, something about that moment threatens the story. Because if you are someone who is recognized, who is celebrated, who lets people see them in full, then what happens to the story about who you are? The capable, self-sufficient, low-maintenance person who doesn't ask for much and doesn't need to be seen. Accepting praise fully and without deflection can feel like losing something, even if what you're actually losing is just the armor you never needed to wear in the first place. The way this shows up shifts across your life, though. In your 20s, it looked like brushing things off at the surface, a quick thanks that closed the conversation before it could open. In your 30s, maybe it became self-deprecating humor, armor with a punchline attached. By your 40s, it goes quieter, internal. You simply don't bring things up. You hold your wins to yourself in a private room inside you that very few people ever enter. It's the same behavior, but the reason evolves. Early, it was about protecting yourself from external pressure. Later, it becomes about protecting yourself from vulnerability, from the exposure that comes with being known and then disappointing someone, or worse, yourself. What this behavior has always done, and still does, is regulate something. It lowers the internal heat. It restores a feeling of equilibrium. In a world that can feel like too much, like too many people wanting too many things from you, minimizing your own presence is like turning down the volume. It gives your nervous system room to breathe. Think of it as a familiar room. You've been walking into it for decades. The light is always the same. The temperature is always the same. You know where everything is. Whatever is happening outside that room, the noise, the scrutiny, the expectations, this room holds none of that. When you deflect a compliment or quietly absorb a win without letting it out into the open, you are stepping back into that familiar room. Not running, not hiding exactly, just returning to a place that feels like yours. That is not dysfunction. That is self-regulation. And it makes complete sense given where you started. You don't need to announce your successes. You don't need to perform confidence you don't feel. You don't need to change the way you move through the world in order to be worth something in it. What you built, quietly, efficiently, largely without applause, is real. It counts. And the part of you that learns to carry it alone, to keep it close, to protect it from the weight of other people's expectations, that part did its job beautifully. You figured out how to take care of yourself in a world that asked you to do it very early. That's not a small thing. It never was.